board meeting and say, look, we've committed to a 43% reduction in the United Arab Emirates, where we're domiciled, by 2030. 100% reduction in UAE, a 43% reduction across the group. And I know exactly how we're going to do that. 80% is around renewable energy, how we purchase renewable energy across the group. So the climate transition plan has a plan for every market in which we operate and how they're going to hit that 80% target of renewable energy. 15% is stationary combustion. So connecting our networks to the network to the grid, which is absolutely critical. Funnily enough, people get most excited by electric vehicles. It's 3%. It's great. It's a nice thing to see, but it's not actually going to move the dial in terms of our overall target. And then when you come to scope 3, which is what Telefonica really are working on at the moment, we've set a 25% as our first target for 2030. There are 3 ways we'll do that. Number 1, we reduce combustion in 1 and 2, which will contribute to our scope 3. Number 2, our top 6 suppliers are critical to working with to enable us to hit our targets.
So we assess companies on 2 dimensions. On the one side, we look at the pace at which companies decarbonize, they reduce their emission intensity, and whether their net zero targets are aligned with the Paris Agreement goals. On another dimension, we look at the climate governance practices, if you will. And this is where we started to look more recently at the credibility of transition plans. We score companies on a ladder ranging from level 0 to level 5. Level 3 means that a company will be at a stage of integrating climate risks and opportunities in their operation, decision-making. Level 5 is where we see the first signs of actual transition planning implementation. And the key ingredients we're looking for are very simple. There are 5 of them, but they really go to the crux of the problem here. So we look at whether companies quantify the key element of their emissions reduction strategy, or whether a company clarifies the role the carbon offsets or other negative emissions technologies might play in their strategy. We look at whether they're decarbonizing capital expenditures in carbon intensive assets or products. And we also look at whether their new CapEx, their new capital expenditures, is aligned with their target goals. And finally, we look for consistency between their policy position and the one that they may be adopting if they're a part of an industry association.
So what can you tell us about those targets? So this Telefonica is a telco operator. We are a Spanish company, but we have a big footprint. We are, for example, here in Brazil, it's one of our main markets. Just to give some figures, because it's difficult if not, we have a long story nowadays in transition, because now we're talking a lot about the 10 years since the COP, in the Paris COP. So what I can say, for example, is that since 10 years ago in Telefonica and the whole group, that means in all the geographies where we have or have had a footprint in those 10 years, we have reduced 84.8% since the baseline in what we consider what we call direct emissions. That is what just depend on us, on the company. That's what we call the environmental people. We call it scope 1 and 2. But we are now mainly working at scope 3 because the value chains in the case of the ICT sector has a very relevant story to work on in the last years, but mainly in the next ones.
Yeah, the industry, the telecommunications industry globally has an ambition to be net zero by 2050 at the latest. So this is aligned with Paris and limiting global heating to 1.5 degrees. And since 2019, from the GSMA side, we've been supporting our members with setting voluntary science-based targets that are aligned to this pathway to net zero by 2050. And the good news is that actually 80 of our members, covering a majority of the industry and world's mobile connections, are committed to science-based targets. So that means halving their emissions.